when you have, and we said we were hoping to have it by today, but we're trying to get it in as soon as possible. You all have a Citrix environment here, meaning the work is done in the background. When you all reboot your computers, you should see an ELO Java client icon, and that's basically the software. Now, there is a web version of it as well, but for the most part, you'll be using the Java client in order to interact with the software. And while it's booting up, we've had issues where we're tweaking it behind the scenes, so we're trying to get it more efficient. It is taking a little while to boot up. So I'll log in with a sample account that I created for the purposes of this demonstration. So login name, password, and then here's the repositories. You notice there are 6 listed. I'll select the Test Canada one. If you have trouble building these, we can certainly help you. You can launch a ticket, etc. But these are profiles that get stored, each one of these repositories. So basically by predefining it, then you can select the one that you're going to. For the most part, you'll be using the Canada, Test Canada and Production Canada. But on occasion, some folks like Derek, who's working on the finance team, they have some global initiatives that. So basically, be sure that you have the right logins. For the most part, we expect you to be working on the Test Canada, Production Canada servers. I'll log into the Test Canada server for the purposes of this demo. As we move along, again, I'll point out that the website that I've put together, this has all the tutorials, and I've put together some short videos. I've tried to keep the videos short so that some folks learn better watching a video, other people learn better reading. So we've got a bit of both. I'll probably need to record a few more if y'all tell me that it's helpful for you. So the videos go into, and the tutorials go into depth that I'm unable to at this 1-hour session. So I encourage you to look at it. We've split it up according to, there's part 1 and 2 of its user interface, which is all the little features like annotations and the ability to share out your documents, etc. Anything that I'm covering in this tutorial you will find in these write-ups. And then at the top right-hand corner, you'll see the original ELO manuals, and they're not bad. However, I've spotted a few places where the manual's actually wrong, so I went ahead and made the correction. So if you want to open up the PDF and then use the manual at the same time, between the two, you'll be able to get a good understanding. And again, it's just to reinforce what I'm covering with you in this training session. So I'll show you a picture that I've drafted up of the user interface. I'd like to point out the different areas of the screen. So again, ELO's maybe not very consistent in the way that they've named their different areas of their screen. So in this graphic, I'm trying to point out, and I use it throughout my tutorials. So for example, at the top, of course, they call it the top menu. And for the life of me, I've always laughed whenever I thought about it. We've always talked about German engineering. To me, these guys have engineered a product. It's really great, but I just don't understand how they connected things together. Like for their top menu, they've got things like ELO start, document. And I find myself trying to skip through their menus looking for a particular function. So you might have that same experience. Hopefully this will help you a little bit. So the top menu, then whenever you click on that top menu, a sub-menu, a set of buttons show up that relate to that top menu. They call it the ribbon menu. To the left is the tile area. Someone said it looks like a Windows 10 tile, and yes, it does. It's actually tiles are actually shortcuts to your folders, to where you're storing things inside of your repository. So you can build them, again, those are more advanced topics. In this class, I'm mostly just covering, how to navigate and how to work with the system rudimentarily. In the middle, there's what they call a feed area, an FEED feed area. So the feed area is nothing more than a notification area. So for example, if you're collaborating on a document with your staff members or with other managers, and you need approvals or you want feedback for a particular document from different folks, you can subscribe to the document, and as those people check in and check out that document to make their changes, it'll reflect here. So if you've got 100 over documents and you're just watching, your eyes are on 2 or 3, you can subscribe to them and they'll show up in this notification area. So that's how you can use the feed. To the right is just the latest documents. All the latest recent documents that you've worked with are reflected on the right-hand side. Then at the bottom, for lack of a better word, it's the bottom menu. The bottom menu, the curious thing I've seen is that it has that's the only place where the search shows up. If you click on the search, then you'll notice that the top menu suddenly has something to do with search. So again, to me, that's quirky, but I pointed out in this tutorial just so that you've heard it once. You'll know where to go when you want to search. When I first started, it took me a while to even find how do you search this thing? So that's your quick graphic and a quick understanding of where everything is laid out. Now, the tile area, from the tile area, when you first log in, click on the repository, and it'll actually put you inside of where things are stored within the repository. So it has a tree-like structure. And those of you that have worked with Lotus Notes in the past, it's frightfully similar. It looks like a Windows Explorer kind of just very simple folder structure, and you can expand on it with the arrows, means that there's something further at that level. When you actually click on a document that is stored in the repository, then on the right-hand side, what shows is I'll try and get this. There we go. What shows on the right-hand side is what they call the preview. And the preview pane actually shows you a preview of the document. And there are other tabs. You can actually look at some of these other things as well. The feed is here to where you can subscribe to the document. Here's your subscribe button. So that's what your navigation is going to look like, and when you click on it, you can actually work with the document or see a preview of it. Now, the previews, there are the native format to ELO is a PDF. Actually, there's also something called a TIFF, but the TIFF formats are fairly old, so we're going to stay away from it. PDF is very prevalent. Everybody knows about PDFs. So when you click on, notice I gave this as an example. I have a Word version of this document, and then I have a PDF version of this document. When a document is displayed in PDF mode, you will then get the annotation capability. This tool over here, these tools here allow you to, as if you're writing on the document, you can do text boxes, text notes. You can put a sticky even against the document. So all this annotation capability is only if the document is in a PDF mode. Any document that you have that is not in PDF mode can be converted into a PDF mode. And there's all those functions. I detail it in my tutorial. So just remember that if you want to work with this and in terms of annotating it within ELO, then you have to convert it into a PDF in order to do that. All right, so we've looked at how to log in. We kind of understand all the different repositories, etc. Let's now look at how we actually file documents into the repository. So filing, we're going to look at 3 different ways to file. One we call the 2-step filing process, kind of like the Texas two-step dance. And then there's a combination step that basically combines some of this together. And then there's the third way is to actually, if you're trying to mass file, like if you have things in your shared folder that you want to put into ELO, you can just basically bring them into ELO using this third method. So the first method is by going the two-step method. And the reason ELO has this way is because the in tray provides some capability that is not evident if you're outside of ELO. Oh, I'm sorry, if you have already filed the document into the repository. So the concept of an in tray is like your working area. And the way the in tray works, it is specific to your ELO session. So if, let's say, and the way you get it in is it's dragging and dropping. So I am going to pick a PDF. I'll drag and drop it in, and I'm going to pick a Word document.
So this is just coming right off your computer.
Yes.
Your document file and then dragging over to your ELO file.
Yes. So the question is, where are these documents coming from? They're coming from the Windows Explorer session. So basically, the best way to work with it is to have, like how I've laid it out, have your ELO to the side, or if you have two screens, it'll help. But then resize your window to where they fit, and then you can drag and drop it into ELO. So by dragging and dropping it into the in tray, it's sitting in the in tray. Now, if you're collaborating with your team and you're asking them to look at this particular document, but you've only brought it into your in tray, guess what? They actually don't see it because in trays are specific only to your session. So in trays are meant to be work in progress areas. So when you're in the in tray on a PDF, ELO provides some Adobe-like functionality. So for example, you can take a Adobe PDF document and you can split pages. Let's say it's 5 pages. You've got your invoices or something like that. You can split them up, or you can slice and dice your document. Elaine was saying that basically y'all put things together for your customers. You might want to attach a cover sheet. This is the perfect place to do that. You bring in your cover sheet, you splice them together, and then as a complete document, you then bring it into your repository. So here's where that feature is available. Only in the in tray are you able to do that. So once it's in the in tray, your next step is you have to attach a keyword form against the document. So this keyword form is very specific to ELO. At the end of the day, every document that you file into ELO has to have this keyword form attached to it. A keyword form is nothing more than a set of indexes that you are placing against the document. It's in IT buzzword, they call it metadata. It's data about data. So, for example, an invoice ID would be a perfect index for it. A CapEx ID, a drawing, maybe a drawing ID, a heat trace document, maybe the certificate ID. You get the picture. It's just identifiers that you can attach to the document so that when they are filed, you can retrieve it by those indexes. And ELO expects that you do it against all the documents. So I'll right mouse click and I'll do the keywording. Now you could have hit F4. There's other ways to do it from the ribbon menu, but I've always found it easy to do the right mouse click. When ELO presents, this is the keywording dialog window. On the left-hand side is a list of keywords that is basically out of the box. ELO provided them as just your starter set. There's nothing here that is specific to AFI at this point in time. So the one that I've always used is called the basic entry keyword form. And all it wants to record is the title of the document. And as you can see here, the date that potentially it's going to autofill the filing date. It's able to see the date of the document when it was created. It's reading that off of Windows, and then the editor, right? So this is just basic information. So if I don't want to deal with the keyword issue, but ELO is basically forcing me to keyword form my document, I'll just go ahead and attach basic entry to it, just so it satisfies that criteria. Now, once it's filed, there's still room for you to change. So let's say you file a bunch of documents with regards to a project, and after you've filed it, you realize, oh, I think we better organize it a little bit better and put a keyword form against it with that project ID. You can do that after the fact. Nothing's tying you down. It's not cast in concrete. But at the point of filing it, you can't even file it without a keyword form. So just by all means, go ahead and keyword form it. And once it's done, of course, you can see the middle column here. It says, okay, it's attached a keyword form against that document, and now it's ready to be filed. So I'll right mouse click again and file to repository, and I'll file it to the location where I see it's fit. Now, what is shown here on the left is folders that you have permissions to. It will never show you anything that you don't have permissions to, basically. So if and in a while, I will discuss how folders and departmental folders, etc., permissioning, how all that is constructed. But at this point in time, you basically are filing into the repository, and it only goes against places that you have permissions to. I will go ahead and file it as such. It's going into the QA training folder. So it's gone from in tray. Your in tray is empty now. You go back to the repository, and you traverse over to where you filed it, and you'll see it's filed. The timestamp says today. Yes, sir.
Keywords, just speaking of permissions. So does anybody, obviously if they assign basic entry to it, that's just the default, but does anybody have the ability to enter their own keyword into it, or is it only just selected by a certain?
So that's a real good question. So the question is how are keyword forms built, and whether you can actually change them. So in order to create a keyword form that is specific to your needs, you need an ELO power user permission. Right now, everyone that's receiving training, we're assigning a default. So there's default, then there's power user, then there's administrator. Those are basically, actually there's a low level which is read-only, and we don't have anybody read-only at this point in time. Everybody was default. So default, basically you can look at these things, but you can't create permissions, you can't create keyword forms. So with the right permissions, you'll be able to create new keyword forms. And the way to look at it, if I click on these, now mind you, these are already filed. These are already in the repository. If I right mouse click and go against the keywording, you notice that on the fourth tab over, there's permissions, and what ELO does is it inherits the folder permissions that it was placed into. If you don't say too much, basically, you as the creator, in this case, I'm part of the quality team, so I have permissions into the quality folders. I filed it underneath a second or third level of a quality folder, and it inherited those permissions. So basically, that's how it works. And we'll deal a little bit more about folders and permissions in a second. So that's one way to file. That's your two-step. Your quicker way to file into your repository is to drag and drop. And imagine I have, let's say, I'm looking for a nice folder. Oh, good. Okay, so meeting notes. I'm going to file. Imagine that at this folder, underneath, imagine if you had 2 or 3 different subfolders. So with the mass filing capability or drag and drop directly into your repository as opposed to dragging it into your in tray, if you go directly into your repository, you can actually file hundreds of documents at a time. And what ELO calls this is, they call it the serial keywording method. So I'm going to drag meeting notes over into the location where I want it, drop, and immediately ELO pops up the keyword form for me. I didn't have to go open it. Now, earlier I said every document requires a keyword form. Imagine you have 450 documents in this particular folder. You're going to sit there and do 450 keyword forms. So that's where this serial keywording comes into play. You click on it. There's options for you to change the name of the file. And again, this is German engineering. I don't know if I would come up with different names. I've just always kept it. I'm leaving it as I'm telling ELO to leave my file names alone. So according to this list, it says pound.pound. So I'm going to leave it like that. I've checked the box and I'll say OK. And it's dim the screen and you're noticing the spinning action. So it's bringing the files over. Elaine pointed out correctly that as we start to use ELO, we'll probably be doing this a little bit as we try to bring in our shared folders into ELO. And as it makes sense, you're bringing over potentially folders, all the subfolders underneath it, because what ELO does is see how it kept under meeting notes, I created like a subfolder. It'll keep and honor your subfolder structures of what you bring over and bring all the files all together. And what it's done is it's attached that one keyword form against it was basic entry that I've picked. And so now all of these have the basic keyword form attached to it. And we told it to just honor keep the same file name. So it did that. If it was 450 files, my experience has been it's going to clock for a little while. Best practice is to not be on Wi-Fi, just because someone might knock your Wi-Fi off while it's trying to do its thing. So I always, even like on a laptop, I try to have it wired. The other thing is I've always just waited to the end of the day. I drag and drop, answer that one question saying, please, go ahead and serial keyword all of them. And then I leave for the day and come back the next morning and it's done. I check, So it's just going to take a while on massive numbers of files as you try to bring everything up to speed. So obviously, as your work processes in future taper off and all the initial uploads have been done, then probably you're not bringing hundreds of files. You're probably just bringing the work day's worth into these different folders and filing them. Yep.
So just with the keywords again. So obviously with large numbers of files, it can merge them all over. So we don't have to do everyone one by one. Let's just say I had a safety folder, for example, and I wanted to copy everything over. Is there any kind of menu where I can pick and choose keywords based on kind of like a checkbox or something? So let's say if I want to keyword half of these with near miss and half of these with incidents, could I split them?
There's not a way to do that. Now,
folderize our stuff.
So if you there's something. So the question is, if you wanted to bring in a bunch of files over and you wanted to have half of them one particular keyword form, something else some other keyword form, how would you do that? There's something called the drop zone. Now the drop zone, when you install ELO, it installs Java client and the drop zone at the same time. The drop zone functions only when the Java client is running. So it pops up to the side like that. And it's a little bit more detailed, advanced kind of steps to do this. But you can create shortcuts to all your different folders. And let's say you have this set of folders, it's all the safety related. This other set is all quality related. And two different keyword forms. You can set them all up there and then drag and drop. The only downside of this drop zone tool is it doesn't honor subfolders. So you have to select them at the lowest level, 50 of them at one level. You can't have your subfolders. So there's two different ways to do this, but each one has its strengths and weaknesses. So you just have to apply the method that works for you. Was that what you were going to say?
Can you bring up the keywording platform on any document, just so it brings up the keyword form? And when you're prompt for the options, you know, where it goes pound up, pound?
That's only when you, at the time that you do your initial drag to it.
In the example that Joe's requesting, if he grouped his near misses in advance in one shot and did that drag and drop, the second selection down, he can name that near miss, and then his next drag and drop, he can underscore say safety.
I'll see what. Let's try sample work order packages and just drag it there. And you're saying checkbox identical and then options. Okay.
See the next one down where it says file name with ending such as invoice da-da-da. He could do file name ending in near misses, file name ending in state. But you could do it in
no checkbox but by what it's called.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't switch the keyword form. It changes the name of the file, but it doesn't seem to have any. I don't see where it talks about like trying to like if you had a different. Now, if you had one keyword form, so I don't think the serial keywording cancel filing. Let me try this again. So serial keywording is, I've seen it only available under basic. So if I go here, oh yeah, it's available for every, right. So, how would you do this? Now I've built keyword forms and I have two, like safety as well as quality on one keyword form. There's nothing preventing us from combining two different types of indexes on one form. However, the filling in of that data, this only talks about the naming of the file. So I think this, it might not work to where you want different keyword forms in two different sections, because this is only affecting the naming of it, the naming of the file. So I still think the best bet is the drop zone, where under the drop zone you have two different icons, each icon having its own keyword form, and so one for safety, one for quality, and then dragging those types of files into it. But we can take that up with ELO and give you a more definite answer, you know, if that's where you're going to head with that. Okay, so